Hello and welcome to Live Well, Be Well, a wellness show where we explore diverse ways to boost health, well-being and connection. Breathe, thrive and feel alive. My name is Deborah from Be Well with Deborah. I'm a wellness coach and laughter yoga teacher and your show host for today. The purpose of the show is to inspire and educate as we explore the many paths of wellness together. Creating community and connection is vital for true wellness, and here we have the opportunity to listen to those doing incredible work in the wellness field, as well as individuals with inspiring personal stories of their own wellness journey. My hope is that the insights and experiences shared here bring you inspiration, encouragement and hope, especially if you or your loved ones are facing any challenges on your own wellness journey. Today I'm very honoured and very privileged to have Nicola in the studio. Nicola is a passionate yoga teacher and energy work practitioner based in Cork City, dedicated to nurturing the mind, body and soul through accessible grounding practices. With a background in healthcare and the disability sector, her journey into holistic wellness was inspired by her own experience with burnout, leading her to share tools that now support rest, rejuvenation and self-care. Trained in both Reiki and Rahanni Celestial Healing, she brings a deep, intuitive and compassionate presence to her energy work. A devoted yoga student for over a decade, Nicola has completed her 2-hour teacher training in Thailand 2023 and has been teaching ever since. She's also undertaken advanced studies in Yin Yoga, Restorative Yoga and Yoga Nidra, ensuring that her classes continue to evolve with depth and inclusivity. Nicola shares her grow and love for yoga and energy work with the warmth and intention, believing that yoga is for everybody, regardless of their shape, size or physical ability. Her classes are welcoming, accessible and designed to help people reconnect with themselves through the beauty of mindful movement and energy healing. Welcome, Nicola.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Delighted to be here and thank you for inviting me on the show.
Brilliant. It's an honour to have you here and I'm really excited to delve in and have our listeners learn all about you and the work that you do. So your own journey into holistic wellness began with burnout. Can you share the moment that you had that realisation that you were totally burnt out and how it's now shaped the path that you're on with your work today?
I think for me that moment of realisation didn't come until way later. I think for anyone that is amidst burnout, and I know there's probably plenty of listeners who are currently in this space and sending you loads of love because it's a really, really hard space to be in. And I think amidst burnout, it's very hard to see that you're in that space, that you're in that burnout space, because your world slightly changes and evolves and you're in fight or flight quite a bit. And especially if for me, it was work related. Like I loved my job, I was really passionate about my job, but the hours didn't suit my body at all and my mind, but you just get stuck in this kind of loop. So I think for me, it was always super interested in the holistic world and always delved in and out of different practices and was always open to trying new things. And so would use those tools throughout my working life in the disability sector, where I worked crazy long hours, 24-hour shifts back to back. And that supported me through that. But I think sometimes when you're in that burnout space, you don't even realize that you're in it. You feel a bit tired and it becomes the norm. So I think for me, I kind of hit that peak point where I thought, okay, something has to change, something has to give. And that for me was booking my trip away to do my teacher training. And I think it was maybe 4 days into me actually being away before I realized, I had that moment of realization, that moment of clarity where I thought, oh my God, what was I doing for 6 years, And it all becomes a little bit more clear, because I think when you're in that hazy space of burnout, from the outside looking in, it makes sense. You need to change something, you need to maybe move jobs, you need to switch up things in your life. But when you're working from that space of complete burnout, it's very hard to make changes in your life. And it's very hard to decide, okay, I'll quit my job and I'll go to Thailand, even that. I feel there was delays for me, I felt, okay, is the universe telling me not to go, or is it pushing me to go? Do I need to fight to go? and I had lots of obstacles to get there, and I had a really close friend of mine give me that final push and that final help to get there, which I'm forever grateful. So thank you, Evan. And I think when I finally got there, I was able to get that space and that clarity to realize how bad things had actually been for me, both mentally, physically, everything had a knock-on effect. So I think for me, that realization didn't come till I was on the trip away, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And looking back now, say, what were some of those symptoms, like, and signs that your body was really under massive pressure and massive stress? And then say when you got to Thailand, then how did your body feel then actually stepping out of that fight or flight response that you've been in for so long?
I think looking back, when you finally come out of it and you're able to see, what was actually going on in that space, I think for me, I was holding a lot in my physical body. You had a lot of back issues throughout my career working in care. I just put it down to people moving and that being just part of the job. That was the norm, But actually, I think a lot of that stress was held in my physical body. I think it manifested in different physical issues over the years with my stomach and all of these different things. And I think we underestimate how much the body holds and how much actual exhaustion and stress and mental stress, how much that toll can affect your actual physical body. I think we really underestimate that. And it's not until you stop that you realize how much we're holding all of the time, especially in a really, really stressful kind of environment where you're giving and giving and giving, and you have very little left to give to yourself. So I think when I stopped, and when you finally get that actual rest, which is my main passion with sharing all of my practices, is teaching people how to practically and actually rest, because we think we're resting all of the time, but actually it's very hard to rest, and our bodies they're not used to it. And when you do finally stop, it's great because you can rebuild and you can re-energize yourself and fill up your own cup, but it's not all daisies and flowers in the garden. You have to go through the unpacking of the heavier stuff, looking at some things that are probably very uncomfortable, healing, dealing with the trauma of those times and delving into that perspective. So I think it was definitely a journey. I thought, okay, I booked this trip to Thailand, I'll go, it's going to be incredible, there won't be anything negative happen, and it was definitely a lot of ups and downs, but in a good way. I think it had to remind me that life it's not all good and it's not all bad. There has to be both. You have to be able to adapt to both, and you have to welcome both, because there can't be light without dark, can't be dark without light. So I think it was just learning to blend those two things and just have space for both. And the training definitely taught me that throughout the 3 weeks of the 200-hour training, which was extremely intense in the very, very hot Thailand hot season, which I thought was a great idea from very cold Ireland.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, and then you get there and you think, okay, I'm not built for this weather, but so it was definitely intense, but in lots of amazing ways as well.
Fabulous. And your trip then to Thailand, that's where you studied then to be like a yoga teacher, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did my training in Thailand, and like when I was going away, I just needed a reason to leave and just to book something and to do something different. I don't think for me it registered that I'd actually be a teacher when I came back. I think I was going with an open mind. I was kind of looking for ways to stay in the disability world, but maybe from a different perspective. So in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe I'll do some adapted classes when I come back. But that was the only bit of entertaining being a teacher I had kind of done in my head before going. And once I got there and I started the course, it was really difficult. It was a really hard course. You're talking 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, intense yoga, learning all day, having to do your own work after that 7 p.m. We were staying in the jungle in Thailand in these tiny huts, no aircon. I'm very Irish. Yeah. I struggled massively with the heat, and all the creepy crawlies, all the navigations you have to do whilst living in the forest, essentially. So it definitely stripped things back a lot, and I definitely learned a lot about myself. And there were times I wanted to leave. I was like, what am I doing here? This isn't for me. I should go. And I just had to keep at it and say, okay, that's just today's feeling, maybe just wait until tomorrow. And by the end, I absolutely adored it. I loved it. I realized, oh, actually I'm meant to be a teacher. And I didn't go into that space thinking that, so that was pretty cool to have had that realization. And yeah, here I am.
Brilliant. And say from your yoga teacher training then, like what was there any like lessons that you were able to learn then that you were to bring back, that you know bring to your classes, which are very accessible and are very open to many different bodies of all different shapes and sizes, that you have a very like inclusive class and the way that you teach as well? And before you answer that question, we're going to go for a break. We're going to play a really good song, which I think is perfect because you're a yoga teacher and you're into the energy healing, which is the song Into the Mystic by Van Morrison. So stay tuned, and when we come back, you can answer that question first. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the Live Well, Be Well Wellness Show, where we explore diverse ways to boost health and well-being. I'm Deborah, your radio show host on Cork Community Radio Station 105.FM. And today we have Nicola, and before the break we were chatting about her yoga journey, where she did her teacher training in Thailand, and she was just about to answer how her training went, in the sense the lessons that she learned and how she's now to bring that into the classes that she teaches, which are very inclusive and open to all body sizes and shapes.
Yeah, I suppose like my yoga journey started years and years ago, and I think pulling from my personal experience, it then made my experience of my training a lot more beneficial for me. Like I've always lived in a more curvy, bigger body, so I am a yoga teacher who lives in a celebrated curvy, bigger body. And I think a lot of classes over the years I would have felt very unwelcomed in the space. There would have been only like one version of a pose given, and sometimes my body can't get into that pose. And I know a lot of people feel that same way, whether it's that you feel you have a lot of stiffness in your body, whether it's chronic pain, injuries, whether you're completely brand new to yoga, or whether your body just can't do certain things. And I think making classes way more accessible for people is definitely something I'm super passionate about, and celebrating your bodies, you know, not fighting with them in a class. You don't want to come to a class and leave feeling less or more frustrated or more upset because you felt your body wasn't welcomed in a space. So I think learning throughout the teacher training of how to adapt things for my own body, and I think our wonderful group that we had of people who all came to train on this course that I was on, I was specifically really, really lucky to have had 17 amazing people, and we all got along super well. And we were people from all walks of life, like lots of different age groups. And throughout the training, a couple of people got injured, so we all had to learn how to teach to people who were in different bodies. It wasn't your typical, you know, what people imagine yoga to be, you know, that really thin looking girl with the Lululemons, you know. It was, we had, you know, men in our course, we had women, we had a nice mix. And so it made it a little bit more realistic. And I think that's something I'm super passionate about, in making my classes a bit more, you know, stripping it back to the basics and supporting people to come and explore their bodies in a practice without feeling judged or in any way singled out. And I think for me, doing the extra trainings with the yin and the restorative, in those practices you use a lot of props. So now I'm definitely on the way to being like the prop queen, so I encourage it so much in classes. Whereas back years ago when I was like starting off my yoga journey, you know, it would have been seen lesser to use a prop to support your body. You would have thought, oh, they're beginner or they can't do it. And sometimes you're in your head wanting to prove yourself a little bit more. Whereas now I celebrate using props so much, because actually you can go so much deeper into your practice if you support your body. And as I say to any student that comes in my door, I don't know what it's like to be in your body, and only you know that. And every day that is different. Some days my body will love doing certain postures and the next day won't. So it changes daily, it changes weekly, monthly, yearly. We're constantly evolving and changing. And I think the most like advanced yoga practice is somebody who stops in a class and actually stops doing what they're doing and takes a rest, because they're truly listening to their bodies and they're saying, actually, no, this isn't suiting me now. I'm going to take a little break and I'm going to back off and take my child's pose or take my rest and then come back to it. And I think in my classes, I highly encourage that. I encourage people to be curious with their bodies. I give lots of options. It's not, oh, this is the main pose or these are the lesser ones that you can do. It's like, no, there is no such thing, actually. There is no right way to do it. There is no wrong way to do it. It's just doing it in a way that suits your body. So I try my best to bring that into my classes and practices. And I think making things inclusive and accessible definitely is hard, you know, like people are afraid of it across the board, and some, you know, you can never be truly inclusive and truly accessible, but you can absolutely try your best and you can invite in that space, and that's all you need. People just need to meet each other a little bit halfway to create that beautiful space. So
brilliant. I really like that. It sounds like you meet people where they're at, you help them to listen to their bodies, because I know a lot of people, when they start off their journey with yoga, they can be overwhelmed or they feel maybe a little bit insecure, so they tend to push themselves. But I love the way that you really get them to like tune into their own bodies and encourage them to go at their own pace. You also do other work as well in your practice, energy work such as Reiki and Rahanni Healing. I would be familiar with Reiki, some people are, but say if someone's listening here now today and it's their first time hearing the word Reiki, first time hearing the word Rahanni, can you speak into that? What is energy healing? And if somebody was coming to you for a session, like how can you support them, and what would they expect in a session with you?
Yeah, so I'm trained in both Reiki and Rahanni Celestial Healing, and so both are a form of energy work. And so what is energy work? It's always the main question I get from people who come in for the first time. Usually people will book a session, come and say, I don't know why I'm here. So you're here for a reason, you know. You felt that call to come. And energy work, during a session, you'd be lying on a massage bed. You'd usually have nice music on in the background, and it's hands on the body or hands off the body, gentle touch. And what both do is help us to clear out any stagnancy that we're carrying in our energetic field, and help us to relax, helps us to release stress, anxieties. It can improve sleep, and it just helps us to, you know, how I like to describe it is kind of blowing off the cobwebs of the system. You know, we dust our house all of the time, we're hoovering, we clean. Energetically, what do we do for our bodies? And I think both are beautiful ways to support you to do that. Like even just walking down the street, whether you speak to somebody or not, you're still picking up on their energies, you know. So all day our energy field is taking a battering, and we're, you know, have our roles at home, at work, wherever we are, whoever you're around, you're picking up on their energies. And sometimes our systems can feel a little bit overrun with that, and especially if you're dealing with your own stuff as well. So energy healing is a nice way to help to clear off that, to let go of anything that no longer serves you, or maybe it's not yours to begin with. And it just helps people to relax a lot more. With the differences between both, they're both similar in ways. I think with Reiki it's a little bit more earth-based, and Rahanni would be more tailored towards those who might be into their angels, into their archangels, because it works a little bit more with them. But both are, you know, to be honest, I usually get a sense of what somebody will want when they come in. You know, they'll just book an energy work session, and then they'll come in and we'll both decide which one kind of feels more suited. But they both provide kind of a beautiful way to relax the body, and I think to reduce stress would be a big one. Brilliant. You know.
And have you ever had somebody say in one of your energy sessions, like have a really like profound experience where they're able to move through and shift through things in the body or their mind?
Yeah, for sure. I think every session is completely individual, and I always tell clients when they've come for the first time, I'll explain what to expect in a session, because it can work on your physical body, so it can go to existing injuries or illnesses in the physical body. It can work on your emotional, mental body, so it might bring emotions up that you're ready to process or you're ready to let go of. It can work on your spiritual body, depending on whatever spiritual elements you bring into in your life. It's not affiliated with religion or anything, it's just your beliefs, you know, and what you believe in. And so it can move through a lot of different parts of our body. And during a session, everyone is super individual, so sometimes you might have a nice emotional release, And I say to people, don't try and figure out what that was. It doesn't matter. Just allow it up and allow it to be let go. If it comes up, it's ready to be let go. And I think with those practices, it's always good to note they never push you to where you're not ready to go. That space is there for you and you're the driver of that session. So you decide when you're ready to let go of something or not.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, sounds very warm, inviting, and very healing as well. And in the future, or in the next few weeks and months, do you have any like events coming up, or if people were interested in getting in contact with you, how could they find out more information about you, Nicola?
So I'm mainly working off of Instagram, and my business page is Raw Healing with Nicola on Instagram, so you can find me there and all of my offerings. At the moment, I am teaching a community class on a Friday morning in the Glen Resource Centre, so that is at 10:30, and that is the highlight of my week, and that is open to everybody, and it's a beautifully run session because it's HSE funded, so everyone who comes only pays €5 donation because it's subsidised. And it's a beautiful class to try and start your yoga career or your yoga practice if you're completely brand new. Beautiful welcoming group that we have there, all walks of life, all ages, both men, women, older, younger, and it's a beautiful community vibe. So that's every Friday morning at 10:30 in the Glen Resource. And then for my pop-ups, I am doing a couple of little day retreats coming up over the summer. I have one in June down in East Cork, where I'm collaborating with a friend of mine, Sinead, from Luna Ishka. And we're going to run a day of yoga, energy healing down in this beautiful space called the Hidden Sauna. So there'll be the option of the lovely saunas after as well, the ice baths. And I have another little day retreat coming up in July in Kinsale, but you'll be able to find all of that on my Instagram page with all of the booking details. And then with regards to teaching, I'll be starting a weekly restorative class on Thursday out in Douglas as well. So that'll be starting the 19th of June.
Gorgeous. You have some really nice offerings coming up, and I'm sure some of our listeners will check those out. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, Nicola. Thank you for coming in and sharing all your knowledge, your insights, and your journey for your yoga training, and also how you teach and run your classes with people, keeping them nice and exclusive. So this brings us to the end of our show today. We've had an absolute pleasure listening to Nicola's journey and how she works with those in the community. Next week, I will be speaking with Karen O'Sullivan, who is a medical health first aid instructor and also a suicide first aider and emergency medical technician. Make sure you tune in for that. It's been an absolute pleasure. Until next time, be well, Deborah.